And we have also in the world today a lot of experiences with this solidarity economy. In Latin America, there's a big movement of the solidarity economy. In Brazil, the Lula government established a Secretary of State responsible for the solidarity economy. And even in Colombia, which is not a country governed by a left government, has political support of the solidarity economy, of cooperatives and so on. And the same in Argentina, where the government introduced formal rules and a law protecting the newly existing cooperatives. And there are many movements, so-called socio-territorial movements, which are fighting for solidarity, for the reappropriation of commons which have been privatized. For instance, in Bolivia, the movement of the indigenous people to get the fossil resources, gas and oil, back from private actors, or the fight about water resources in Cochabamba and other places in Bolivia. That was one of the conditions why the Morales government came into power. So it is a political movement which has its impact already. And the solidarity economy also in the highly developed capitalist countries has its history in the labor movement since the 19th century and also in modern movements. And the OECD in a report 3 years ago on the non-profit sector wrote that this non-profit sector 3 years ago is about, in the OECD countries, more than 29 million persons. This is more than a person's work in the industrial sector. So it is the most important sector of the world, of the economy. And it is not industry. But this sector is also a precarious one. Well, this is also reminding you that there is a history that also in Marx you find his famous letters to Vera Zasulic, Russian Narodniki, where he says, well, what I said about the revolution, it is for the Western developed countries, for England and other countries, not for Russia. It is possible to use the cooperative basis in the Russian village for a new social system. So he was rather open-minded, much more open-minded than his followers. Cooperatives have a long history, and up to the cooperatives like Mondragon in the Basque country in Spain, which is a transnational corporation, but based on cooperative principles. It works rather well, although it is not only a positive example of cooperatism. And when you define cooperatives as entities where workers cooperate and workers co-determine what happens, where you have gender equality, where sustainability in ecological terms plays a big role, where democratization is an important issue, then you have in many parts this or that characteristics of working cooperative, but not all. That is a big problem. And then you have to remind the paradoxon which the German sociologist Franz Oppenheimer at the beginning of this century already mentioned, that cooperatives, and that's a paradox, remain cooperatives when they are politically successful. when they are economically not successful, when they remain small. When they are economically successful, grow and accumulate, then they are no more politically, in terms of following the principle of the cooperative, successful. That is a paradoxon which we have always to take into consideration. And a good example for that is the already mentioned non-profit sector. It is precarious in many aspects, not successful, in politically successful, but economically it works. Well, there are many, as I already said, examples of cooperatives and solidarity economy, the problem is, or the question is at the end, is that a solution or a way out of the financial crisis? And as I already said at the beginning, I am not sure whether it is a way out of the economic crisis. The dynamics of this economic and financial crisis are very hard, very sharp, and nobody can tell you what still happens. You have to take into consideration many people compare the contemporary financial and economic crisis with the crisis of 29, saying this is as serious as that of 29. I would say it is much more serious than that of 29. All data shows that. But what happened after the crisis of 29? When was it over or overcome? Only after fascism in Germany, in Italy, in other parts of the world, after a New Deal in the United States and a change of the power structure in the United States, but also the unemployment only has been overcome in the United States after the beginning of rearmament and of the entry of the United States in the war. And it was a war which made an end to the crisis, and then only in the post-wartime period, in the period of economic miracles and a change in the global hegemonic system, a shift of hegemony from Great Britain to the United States, and the defeat of the fascist bloc, only after 50 million people who died in the war, there was a solution. And when you take this into account and you take serious what can happen, then of course it is absolutely necessary to fight the crisis and to do everything to prevent that this happens again in this or that form. And therefore it is so important to think about alternatives. And one of the friendly and positive and peaceful and socially progressive and ecologically sustainable alternatives would be such a solidarity economy, a cooperative society, which perhaps will come, but it does not fall from heaven. It is only the result of struggles in all countries in the world. Thank you for your attention.